A very good evening, friends. I welcome you all to the daily newspaper analysis brought to you by the Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is June 11th, 2024. Here are the list of articles which we are going to discuss today. Before entering our discussion, I have an important announcement to you. See, the announcement is about the Shankar IAS Academy's Telegram live channel, which is a key to conquer UPSC Prelims 2024. Join us for our Telegram live series featuring Mr. Raja IAS. He will speak about the stress management as we are getting into the last week of our exam. So don't miss the opportunity to get unparalleled knowledge. To join live series, tune to Shankar IAS Academy's Telegram channel or click on the description which I am giving here. So back to our discussion. Now let's get into agenda of the day. Friends, in this section we are going to solve two previous year MCQs which had appeared in the UPSC Prelims. Let's solve them. Look at this 2019 prelims question. It talks about the black holes and its merger. See, it's a straightforward question. Here, a factual knowledge about black holes is very important to answer this question. So, before we get on to answer this question, let us revise some basics about black holes. See, the black hole is a place in space where the gravitational pull is so much that even the light cannot get out. And the reason for gravity being strong here is that the matter here has been squeezed into a tiny space. And this usually happens when a star is dying. As I said earlier, due to gravity, even light cannot escape here. And since no light can get out, it appears black in color. Due to this phenomenon, people can't see black holes and they appear invisible. And this is the reason for them to be termed as black holes. On talking about their formation, see, according to scientists, the smallest black holes formed when the universe began. When you take stellar black holes, they are made when the center of a big star falls in upon itself or collapses. And when this happens, it causes a supernova. And for your information, a supernova is an exploding star that blasts part of the star into space. Also note that supermassive black holes are believed to be formed at the same time as the galaxy that surrounds them formed, but astronomers are still not sure about it. Now, let us see what are gravitational waves. See, gravitational waves are invisible ripples in space-time fabric which travels at the speed of light. It was first given as a concept by Albert Einstein in his theory of relativity in 1915. But gravitational waves were discovered exactly after a century, that is 14th September 2015. See, these gravitational waves carry information about the origin and it holds many secrets regarding the cosmos. See, they are formed due to the ripples caused in space-time fabric because of different conditions like when two massive black holes collide with each other, when two big stars orbit around each other. Okay, now with this basics, now let us come back to the question. See, when the two supermassive black holes in each of this system finally come together in millions of years, their encounters will produce strong gravitational waves. Gravitational waves produced by the collision of the stellar mass black holes have already been detected by LIGO. Observatories like LISA will be able to detect the lower frequency gravitational waves from the supermassive black hole mergers, which are a million times more massive than those who were detected by LIGO. So, according to this logic, here the correct option is option B, gravitational waves were detected. So with this basics, now let us move on to next question. See, this question is regarding the digital payments and two statements are given and we have been asked to find the veracity of the statements. So first let us revise few basics about BIM and come back to the question. So firstly, what is BIM? BIM stands for Bharat Interface for Money. It's a mobile payment app developed by National Payment Corporation of India or NPCI. See, this app is named after Dr. Bhimarao Ambedkar. It allows the users to make simple, easy and quick transactions using Unified Payment Interface or UPI. With BIM, users can send or receive money directly into their bank accounts using a mobile number or UPI ID. Talking about the features, it offers several features that make it a convenient tool for the digital payments. See, users can easily send and receive money to anyone with a UPI enabled bank account. Additionally, the app allows the users to quickly check their bank balances. It supports linking of multiple bank accounts, providing flexibility in managing finances. Users can also view a history of all the transactions which are made through this app, ensuring transparency and record keeping. Moreover, BIM enables the user to generate their own QR code to receive payments. The app supports multiple languages, making it easy for the people from different regions of India to use it in a comfortable manner. See, these are all some of the features of the BIM. Now coming to technicalities, BIM uses a three-factor authentication process to ensure secure transaction. They are, firstly, mobile number verification. While setting up the app, the user's mobile number is verified through OTP, which is sent via SMS. Secondly, device binding. See, the app binds to the mobile device of the user to ensure that the transaction can only be initiated from the registered device. Thirdly, UPI PIN. Users need to create a UPI PIN while linking their BIM account with their bank account. Every time a transaction is made, the user must enter their UPI PIN to authorize the payment. See, these are all the basics of BIM. With this understanding, let's go back to the question. See the first statement. It states that BIM app allows the user to transfer money to anyone with a UPI enabled bank account. See, this is correct as we have seen in our discussion. Statement 2. While a chip PIN debit card has 4-factor authentication, BIM app has only 2 factors. See, this is incorrect because chip PIN debit card is a physical card that we have with us. We usually insert and enter the PIN, so it uses just 2-factor authentication. In some cases, the additional measures like OTP will be used, but this does not constitute a 4-factor authentication system. Similarly, we know that BIM uses 3-factor authentication, not 2. So here they have asked about the correct statements. So the option 1 alone is correct. So the correct option is option A. See, with this basics, now let us enter the news article discussion of the day. Look at this article. It talks about the addition of new members like Egypt, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia in BRICS. See, this makes the total number of members to 10. In this backdrop, let us understand the basics of BRICS and BRICS Plus from the preliminary perspective. What is BRICS? See, BRICS is an acronym for the grouping of the world's leading emerging economies, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. The term BRIC was coined by Jim O'Neill, the then chairman of the Goldman Sachs in 2001. Know that the first BRICS summit took place in the year 2009 in Russia. In 2010, South Africa formally joined the association, making it BRICS. Also know that the BRICS Leadership Summit is convened annually. The chairperson of the forum is rotated annually among the members in accordance with the acronym BRICS. Know that together BRICS accounts for about 40% of the world's population and 30% of the GDP, making it a critical economic engine. Moving forward, let us see, recently in the 15th BRICS Summit hosted by South Africa in Johannesburg holds significant importance because this summit marks the first in-person gathering since 2019 COVID pandemic. The theme for the 15th BRICS Summit is BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Inclusive Multilateralism. See, this marks an important milestone by expanding the membership of BRICS from 5 to 10 countries by including Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates and Ethiopia. On continuing our discussion, see, during the 6th BRICS Summit, the leaders signed the agreement establishing the new development bank NDB headquartered in Shanghai. The Fortaleza Declaration stressed that the NDB will strengthen the cooperation among the BRICS countries and will supplement the efforts of the multilateral regional financial institutions for the global development, thus contributing to sustainable and balanced growth. Considering the increasing instance of global financial crisis, the BRICS signed BRICS Contingent Reserve Agreement or CRA in 2014 as a part of Fortaleza Declaration at the 6th BRICS Summit. See, the BRICS CRA aims to provide short-term liquidity support to the members through currency swaps to help mitigate the BOP crisis and further strengthen the financial stability. Here note that BRICS are considered as the foremost geopolitical rival to the G7 bloc of the advanced countries, implementing the competing initiatives like NDB, CRA, etc. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the BRICS and its initiatives. With this, let us move on to next news article discussion. This text and context article talks about the demand for the special category status to Andhra Pradesh. In this analysis, let us talk about the article and understand the issues in this discussion. Firstly, let us start with the background of the problem. As we know that Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act was passed in 2014. This act split Andhra Pradesh to 2 states, Andhra and Telangana. The act did not include a provision for the special category status for Andhra Pradesh. In February 2014, the then Prime Minister promised the special category states for Andhra Pradesh for 5 years. This promise was then supported by the opposition leaders. But when the next government got elected, the promise of special category status was not met. The reason which was given was that the Andhra Pradesh did not meet the criteria for the special category status and cited the dissolution of the Planning Commission as a reason. Now, in our discussion, let us look at the criteria for the special category status. See, initially, this concept was introduced by the 5th Finance Commission in 1969 to aid the states which are facing socio-economic and geographical disadvantage. The qualifying factors for the special category status were majority of tribal population, low population density, hilly terrain, international borders, socio-economic and industrial backwardness, and poor finances of states. Know that the current special category status states are Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura and Uttarakhand. The 14th Finance Commission recommended treating special category states and general category states in a similar manner and thereby increase the tax states for all the states to 42%. See, this is general information on the special category status. Moving on, we shall see why Andhra demands special category status. There were several revenue and development issues in the Andhra Pradesh due to the bifurcation of the state. Andhra continues to face revenue deficit, high debt, stalled projects and the pending construction of the new capital at Amravati. So this is the reason why Andhra demands special category status. Now we shall understand about the Andhra Pradesh special package. In 2018, the then Chief Minister of Andhra, Chandrababu Naidu, accepted special package in place of special category status. The special package from the central government included two important things. Firstly, a recognition of the Polavaram irrigation project as a national project with full funding from the central government. Secondly, tax concessions and special financial assistance. See, the then opposition criticized this as a betrayal, arguing that the Chief Minister compromised the interest of the state. Now, let us see what is the current situation. See, we know that TDP rejoined with the NDA alliance and it had participated in the government. So, this scenario revived the hopes for the special category status. Also note that the N.K. Singh, chairman of the 15th Finance Commission, mentioned that the ruling out of the special category status category was the decision of the central government and not of the 14th Finance Commission. So, we have to wait and see what will be the fate of the special category status demand of the Andhra Pradesh under this government. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In our discussion today, we saw about the special category status from the preliminary perspective. With this, let us move on to next news article discussion. Look at this Hindu editorial article. It discusses a new opinion from the International Tribunal for the Law of Sea about climate change. On May 21, 2024, the ITLOS said that the countries must reduce greenhouse gas emissions to protect the oceans. This is based on the UNCLOS treaty. See, the opinion highlights that the states have a duty to take strong actions against the pollution even though the opinion is not legally binding. See, this is the crux of the article. We have already discussed UNCLOS extensively in our previous video. So, now let's dive into another dimension of the topic using our mains answer reading perspective. Look at this question. Differentiate between climate justice and climate ethics. Discuss their significance. We know that this topic comes under GS 4 under the subsection Dimensions of Ethics. Before answering, let us understand how to write answer for this type of questions. This question demands us to write about two important topics. They are climate justice and another one is climate ethics. Firstly, write in detail about what is climate justice, its significance with some suitable examples. Then, in the second part, write about climate ethics and its significance and how these two topics are different from each other. See, this is the skeleton of the answer which we are going to discuss today. Now, let's start answering. Your introduction can go like this. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges facing our world today. It affects everyone, but not everyone in an equal way. This brings us two important concepts, climate justice and climate ethics. Both concepts aims to guide us in creating a fair and sustainable future for all of us. See, this can be your introduction. Now moving on to the body part. Firstly, write about climate justice. See, climate justice is about fairness. It focuses on the social and political aspects of the climate change. The main idea is to make sure that everyone, especially the most vulnerable, is treated fairly in the fight against climate change. It looks at how climate change affects the different groups and seek to address inequalities. See, there are three important questions climate justice asks. Let's write them one by one. The first question is, who is responsible for causing the climate change? We know that developed countries has historically emitted more greenhouse gases. So, naturally they bear a greater responsibility for fighting climate change. Secondly, it asks that who is most affected by climate change. Often, it's the poorest communities and the poor countries that suffers the most, even though they contribute least to the problem. Thirdly, how can we ensure that the solution to the climate change are fair and just? See, this means helping those who are most affected and making sure that everybody has a say in the decisions that affect them. Now, let's write about the significance of climate justice. Firstly, climate justice aims to reduce the gap between rich and poor by ensuring that the wealthy who have historically contributed more to the problem do more things to address it. Secondly, it involves affected communities in decision making. This empowers them to take charge of their future and build resilience against the climatic impacts. Thirdly, it helps create policies that are fair and just. This will ensure that everyone, regardless of the socio-economic status, benefits from climate action. So, these are all of the points you can write in the climate justice. Now moving on to the second part, let's discuss about climate ethics. See, climate ethics is more about moral principles. It deals with philosophical questions about right and wrong. Climate ethics is concerned with our duties to the environment, future generation, and global cooperation. Like climate justice, it also asks some important questions. There are three important questions of climate ethics. Firstly, do we have a moral obligation to reduce our carbon footprint? Secondly, what duties do we have towards our future generation? Thirdly, what ethical principles should guide the international cooperation on climate change? Now moving on to significance, let's write these points. Climate ethics helps individuals and governments understand their moral obligation to reduce the emissions and protect the planet. Secondly, it helps balance human needs with the rights of nature, ensuring that our actions do not harm the environment or future generation. Thirdly, by promoting ethical principles, climate ethics encourages the international cooperation and solidarity in addressing the climate change. See, this is the body part of the answer. Now moving on to the conclusion part, you can conclude by saying that Nelson Mandela once said that it always seems impossible until it is done. Similarly, achieving climate justice and adhering to the climate ethics may seem challenging, but with the help of collective efforts, strong policies, and ethical practices, we can make a significant shift towards a fair, more sustainable world. This can be your conclusion. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the nuances between climate ethics and climate justice in our mains answer writing discussion. With this, let us move on to discuss the next news article of the day. Look at this article. It talks about the most recent image sent by Aditya L1 mission. In this backdrop, let's understand about the Aditya L1 mission, and we shall also look about Lagrange's point in a brief from the preliminary perspective. So firstly, what is this Aditya L1 mission? See, Aditya L1 is a coronagraphy spacecraft for studying the solar atmosphere. See, it was designed and developed by Indian Space Research Organization and various other space research institutions. Know that this mission is orbiting at about 1.5 million km from Earth in a halo orbit around the Lagrange point L1 between the Earth and Sun. Here you know that this mission will study the solar atmosphere, solar magnetic storms, and their impact on the environment around the Earth. See, it's India's first dedicated mission to observe the Sun. Moreover, it was launched about using PSLV C-57. Now, let us see the main objectives of Aditya L1. Firstly, it is used to observe the dynamics of the Sun's chromosphere and corona. Secondly, it is used to study the chromospheric and coronal heating, the physics of partially ionized plasma of the coronal mass ejections and their origins of the coronal magnetic field and heat transfer mechanism and flare exchanges. Thirdly, it is used to observe the physical particle environment around its position. Moreover, it is used to determine the sequence of processes in multiple layers below the corona that lead to solar eruptions. And this mission is also used to study the space weather, the origin, composition, and dynamics of solar wind. For better understanding about corona and chromosphere, look at this image. Moving forward, let us look at the payloads of Aditya L1 mission. So, having seen elaborately regarding Aditya L1 mission, now let us see about Lagrange points in a brief. Lagrange points, also known as libration points, are specific regions in the space where the gravitational forces of the two celestial bodies like planet, moon, or sun create a stable equilibrium. See, these points were first described by Lagrange, a mathematician and physicist in the late 18th century. Note that there are 5 points labeled L1 to L5 each with unique characteristics and properties. Firstly, with respect to L1, see, it is positioned between two large bodies. L1 allows objects to remain in constant alignment with the two bodies by balancing their gravitational force. L2, see, this point is located on the opposite side of the smaller body away from the larger body. It keeps the objects aligned with the two bodies but further from the smaller body. L3, see, L3 point is situated on the opposite side of the larger body directly in line with the smaller body. See, it's less commonly used due to the instability and the position which is far away from the two bodies. L4, see, it's found ahead of the smaller body in its object around the larger one. See, L4 forms an equilateral triangle with the two bodies providing a stable point due to combined gravitational forces. Finally, with respect to L5, it's located behind the smaller body in its orbit around the larger one L5, so that it also forms an equilateral triangle with the two bodies and offers a stability similar to L4. See, this is all about the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the Aditya L1 mission, and in the second part, we saw about Lagrange point from preliminary perspective. With this, now let us move on to discuss the next news article of the day. Today, we are going to have a detailed discussion about the non-aligned movement, its origin and implication. Firstly, let us quickly brush up the history of NAM. See, the non-aligned movement or NAM was created during the height of Cold War. See, people of Africa, Asia, Latin America and other regions of the world started their independence struggle. See, this led to the collapse of the colonial system, and it's during this time the NAM as an idea was conceived and formed. See, during the early days of the movement, its actions played a key factor in the decolonization process, which led later to the attainment of freedom and independence by many countries. So, throughout the history, the movement of the non-aligned countries has played a fundamental role in the preservation of the world peace and security. Now, let us see how NAM was formed. See, it's important to note that the stand of the third world countries during the Cold War. Who is this third world countries? The newly emerged nations after the end of the World War II are commonly referred as third world. The term third denotes that those countries are distant from the capitalist bloc and communist bloc which had represented the other two worlds. On continuing our discussion, some meetings of the third world perspective were held before 1955. Historians consider that the Bandung African Asian Conference is the most immediate antecedent to the creation of the non-aligned movement. This conference, which took place in Bandung from April 18 to 24, 1955, brought together 29 head of the states from the two continents belonging to the first post-colonial generation of leaders. See, the aim of the conference is to identify and assess the world issues at that time and to pursue the joint policies in international relations. The 10 principles of Bandung, which would regulate the interactions between the large and small nations, were proclaimed during the conference. The 10 principles of Bandung were given here for your references. See, these concepts were later embraced as the core goals and objectives of the non-alignment policies. The fulfillment of these policies became the primary requirement for the NAM membership. In 1960, in light of the results gained in Bandung, the foundation of the NAM was given a major push during the 15th ordinary session of the UNGA in 1960. A key role was played in this process by the then head of the state and government Abdel Nasser of Egypt, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Pandit Nehru of India, Sukarno of Indonesia, Joseph Broz Tito of Yugoslavia, who later became the founding father of the movement and its emblematic leaders. 6 years after the Bandung, the movement of the NAM was founded on a wider geographical basis at the first summit conference at Belgrade, which was held on 1961. The conference was attended by 25 countries. They are Afghan, Algeria, Yemen, Myanmar, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Congo, Cuba, Cyprus, Egypt, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guinea, India, Indonesia, Iraq, Lebanon, Mali, Morocco, Nepal, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, and Yugoslavia. To avoid the bureaucratic ramification, the founders chose to proclaim it as a movement rather than the organization. The membership criteria were formulated during the preparatory conference to the Belgrade summit. It demonstrated that the movement was not intended to play a passive role in international politics, but rather to formulate its own position independently in order to reflect the interest of the members. Thus, the primary objective of the NAM focuses on support of self-determination, national independence and sovereignty and territorial integrity of the states, opposition to upper threat. Thirdly, non-adherence to the multilateral military pacts and the independence of the NAM from greater powers or rivalries. Fourthly, the struggle against imperialism in all form or manifestation. Fifthly, the struggle against colonialism, neo-colonialism, racism, foreign occupation and disarmament. Sixthly, non-interference to the internal state of affairs. Seventhly, rejecting the use of force or the threat of force in international relations. Then, the democratization of the international relations. And ninthly, socio-economic development. And finally, international cooperation on equal footing. Now, let us see how India evolved with NAM. As I said already, India's place in the national diplomacy, significant size and economic prowess made it one of the founding fathers of the NAM. See, India's policy of non-alignment was a result of its own colonial experience and non-violent independent struggle. It was determined that an independent India's new foreign policy should be free from the political domination and economic interferences from both Western capitalism and Soviet communism. The term non-alignment was coined by India's first defense minister V.K. Menon during a speech at UN in 1953 and later would be used by PM Jawaharlal Nehru from 1954. In a speech at Colombo the same year, he laid down the 5 principles that would be the cornerstone of NAM policy. They are mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interferences in the domestic affairs, equality and mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. See, these 5 principles later become the punch seal that guided Indo-China relations. India's stance of non-alignment earned it a tremendous worldwide reputation among the former colonies who were either fearful of joining US or Soviet. However, certain events in the 1980s strained such statuses. Events like signing of Treaty of Friendship between Soviet Union and interferences in the internal affairs of the small nations during the 1980s. India's regional adversaries believed that the NAM and non-interferences policy exclusively applied to the countries outside the region. See, this fact has contributed to the failure of the NAM. Now, finally, let us see the factors which led to the decline of the NAM. Firstly, the disintegration of the USSR in 1991 led to the emergence of a unipolar world dominated by US. In this global context, NAM became irrelevant. Secondly, with the rise of the economic globalization and integration of the many NAM countries into the global economy led to the shift in priorities. Many countries started to pursue economic ties with the major powers like US, China, which sometimes conflicted with the NAM's non-alignment principle. See, even India, a founding member and a key member, shifted its foreign policy towards economic liberalization and strategic principles with the major global powers after the end of Cold War. This shift raised the questions about India's commitment to NAM and influenced the other members to reconsider their strategic positions. Thirdly, the absence of strong charismatic leaders who could rally the member countries and provide clean directions weakened the NAM's influences. The leaders like Nehru, Tito and Abdel Nasser were instrumental in its early years, but their successors did not have the same impact. And finally, the emergence of the other international and regional organizations like G20, BRICS, ASEAN provided alternative platform for the countries to pursue their strategic and economic interests, reducing the economic and strategic interest, reducing the centrality of the NAM. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the NAM, its principles, its significance and its failure. This is all regarding the discussion. Now, let us move on to next part of our discussion, that is to discuss the preliminary practice questions. Today, we are having 2 questions. Let's solve them. Look at the first question. Which of the following statements are correct about Aditya L1 mission? See, the first statement states that it's the first scientific expedition of the ISRO and NASA to study the sun and the moon. See, this statement is wrong as we can easily eliminate it from our commonsensical perspective. Let us see the second statement. The satellite will be placed in the halo orbit around the Lagrange point L1 of the Sun-Earth system. See, this is correct as we have seen in our discussion. And the third statement is also correct because Aditya L1 is the first Indian mission to study the sun. It was conceived as a 400 kg class satellite carrying one payload, visible emission line chronograph, and was planned to launch 800 km low Earth orbit. See, in this mission, satellites will be placed in the halo orbit around the L1 of the Sun-Earth system. Moreover, the satellite was launched during 2019-20 by PSLV XL from Sriharikota. So, first statement alone is incorrect and the second and third statements are correct. So, the correct option is option C. Let's see the second question of the day. Consider the following statements with respect to BRICS grouping. See the first statement. It's an intergovernmental organization comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Iraq, Egypt, Eritrea and UAE. Statement 1 is wrong because we know that BRICS is an intergovernmental organization comprising of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi and UAE. So the first statement is wrong. See the second statement. Its first summit was held in South Africa in 2009. See the first statement was held in Ekaterinburg in 2009 with South Africa joining the bloc a year later. See the statement is correct as we have seen in our discussion. See the third statement. During Fort Laser summit, the BRICS signed the document to create a $100 billion new development bank. See, this is also correct as we have seen in our discussion. So the correct option is option D, 2 and 3. If you like today's video, like, comment and share it with your friends. For more updates regarding UPSC preparation, subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you.